Welcome in, ladies from HR, Agnieszka Tykwińska, co-owner of Team Shell Company. Today our guest is Sascha Fahrbach. Hi,
Hello.
Sascha.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. So briefly about Sascha, because your story is very, I would say, interesting one.
And not so brief, right?
Not so brief.
Yeah.
It's actually a mix of different experience you brought to Poland. So first of all, it's a lot, so maybe I will support myself with reading. TV host, journalist, cybersecurity evangelist. You have opportunity to live in 7 countries. And for nearly 10 years, you're here now in Poland. Mm-hmm. And how do you like it?
Well, I'm still here, so, something's going right.
Yes.
I think Poland was something very unique that was unplanned, but with every passing few months, I just liked it more, and a plan to stay short time continued longer and longer, and here we are. And no major plans to change that. Yeah.
Okay, good. So you will be still with us.
I think so. Yeah, if you'll have me, sure.
Perfect. So the purpose why we have you here today is we would like to discuss about differences between Poland and US and European countries as well, about success celebration, because it's something what bother us a lot, I mean, in regards to HR field. And when we've discussed this topic before you came, we found out that Polish people celebrate success a bit different way than people from US, from other European countries. And how do you found it, like from your perspective?
Yeah, that's true. And I think this is the right moment, I think, to analyze a little bit. I don't want to say only bad things. I'm a big fan of this country.
Yeah,
like I said, already here 10 years. But I think if I mind just going back a little bit to the beginning. When I first came here, very much in a sort of, without much of a plan, it was about creating a small business, actually in language training and coaching, and very much a shoestring budget entrepreneur with a couple of my friends, Polish friends. And very much from the beginning, there was this idea like, okay, we're kind of like impacted by more, let's say, British, American style success. And let's try this, entrepreneurship, a little bit new. But at the same time, I think it's the right place. Like, I think this country very much has the DNA for entrepreneurs. And I think that's really important to try things. I think if I look at the potential, not just for trying a business, trying an idea, I think this place very much, and the whole region really, I think is a good place to try something new, because I think many factors exist because of that encourage that. But back to that beginning story. So we had our first small successes, right? I mean, we had this language training. We hired out this hotel, had some clients, some students, etc. So everything went really well. And I was there, the guy grew up in California. That was one of the main places where I spent a lot of my life. Really excited about this. I was like, wow, guys, we achieved this. We had our first course. Money has come in. We're in the green. Everything's great. Let's celebrate. And then these two guys were like, well, why do we have to celebrate that? And I was like, well, because it's kind of an achievement, right?
And those people were from Poland?
They were Polish, correct.
Okay.
So, and my age, I mean, we're sort of like in our early 20s, and it's like, well, but we did everything we were supposed to do, like as we planned. It's like, well, yeah, but let's celebrate that. So it was already this kind of, well, we had a goal, we achieved it, let's move on and make it better. And I get that, but there was no, hey, look, let's take a pause. Let's really celebrate this for a moment, which I've seen in other projects in other companies just as well. Even if it's just a pat on the back, it's very rare in Poland to get that, like really positive feedback, as you said, success, celebration.
Yes.
Now, having grown up in America, also living in different countries, I think that unfortunately is missing a little bit here. Not that it has to be totally American, but I think not just celebrating and saying, oh, let's have a giant party if we've achieved everything, but just stop for a moment. Let's say you've done well, reward those around you in different ways, and learn from that and move on, because I think that's a very powerful thing to do with your staff, your employees, your clients. And I think that builds also loyalty, trust, and I think that's really important, whatever kind of business you're in, really. So I think that's missing a bit in this country.
And why is it missing? Well, I was thinking about that, and I think the biggest issue we are struggling with, I mean, Polish people, is the way we were raised, and the way, what kind of message we received from the school, like our teachers, our parents, like success celebration, telling about the success and about positive aspect in our life is foreseen as a lack of the modesty. And the way how we are raised here in Poland is the focus on being modest, to hide in front of the others, our success, because the people foreseen that as a bit of a selfish attitude, yes. And I think that it has a huge influence in our future, like in our life in the future, and the way we manage our career, and the way how we actually managed ourselves. So it's quite a big job to do in regards to self-development, and the way how we actually should focus on celebrating, the success, like small successes in our life.
Exactly, right? The small steps, right? Like, saying good job, team. Hey, you did this really well. And it doesn't have to be this major task, right?
Yeah.
It can be something, hey, thanks for sending this file over. This was done well. Or, hey, you had a chat with the client. That went well. Good job. Something like in this direction. You said, hiding this modesty, but I have to say a little darker side as well is that there's a bit of maybe jealousy in there as well. Someone who is maybe then succeeding. Like, I think you have that rarely in Poland, unfortunately, sometimes, where you have someone who's really very happy for you, like who supports the colleague or a friend who's doing really well. And I found that also maybe plays part in this, is that there isn't really a big sense of, hey, my friend is doing this really well. I'm really proud of you. Or this guy over here. It's sort of like almost like there's this jealousy. And of course, there's a kind of competition that can happen anywhere. But I do sense that there isn't this sort of, I'm happy for you. You've done a good job. I look up to you, rather than, oh, this guy or this woman is doing something that I don't like because I should have it, right? And I think that's unfortunately also in it. This goes back to some of my early days here. It was in this language training, coaching business. English and German as well. And I found this in most of my students. A couple stats I can share with you is that most of my students, I'd say probably 80% were female. And then that last bit was male. Now, these were people who were top level managers, owners of businesses, like very smart people, between mid-30s, 40s, into their 50s. But they all shared very much this, like, they didn't want to make a mistake. It's like this very much, until I know it perfectly, I'm not even going to try it. And this makes language learning very difficult, but you can apply that to anything else. If you're not ready to make that mistake, if you're not ready to risk something in business, you're going to have a tough time trying to achieve anything, because you can't make it perfect, right? And I think this making something perfect is kind of the problem. And I think, as you said already, it comes from schooling, right? And it's taught at a school level very much. Like, don't stand out, don't do more than you're supposed to.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that does hem in certain soft skills, which, are then later not really employed very much, and it's not rocket science, and it's very few small things, I think, that can be changed, which already would make a very big difference, right, in my view. And I've seen that and sensed that, and those polls that are doing it are doing exactly like I said, just good feedback, taking a bit of a risk here, supporting the others. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I think still the majority of polls are still not doing that. And I think that will make a huge difference. That makes this country, I think, stand out even more. And I think it should stand out in a positive way, because there are many amazing things that are going on in Poland, which unfortunately don't get told enough at this point.
Yeah, it was also something about me, today, when I realized that we were gonna discuss in English, and I thought, oh my God, how am I gonna to handle that, because it's not my first language. And I felt a bit stressed, but
But you took the risk. And here we are.
I did.
The walls are still standing. We're still broadcasting.
Yeah,
and it's going
exactly.
well.
And the people were gonna have to accept it, the
Yeah.
way I'm having this conversation, or they can always like switch it off.
Don't switch it off. No, there's more coming. No, don't switch it off. But like you said yourself, you are doing this, right? And you can have your reservations, but look, you put this together.
Yeah.
You're doing this, and I think kudos to you for doing that. And I think that's already an achievement. I have to say successfully that you're doing well doing this. And I said first time in English in this format, brilliant. Just keep going.
Yeah. So first format in English, and you are here.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think it's those kind of things. You try things out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. You try things out, see if they work. And I think that's also very much what I liked about this place, which is sort of the open secret, right? You can try things out in this place. If we have a small startup, or you're trying like maybe a SaaS business, or even something else, it doesn't have to be a tech business. It can be another kind of business,
Mm-hmm.
selling food or whatever you want to do. I think the entry level for different types of businesses, the access to different markets around the region. We're in the European Union. I think the also reputation of Poland rising as a place where you can do business and do it very well, not just in a huge domestic market, but then access to around the European Union. I think that's worth remembering. So that's why I came here, not because of, let's say, I always knew I wanted to come here. So
Mm-hmm.
it was sort of like, hey, let's try this here. I was intrigued, and I just was more intrigued as the months and years carried on. And I learned more in business and more in a lot of things, technology, how to deal with people, how to do so many things, more in Poland in these years than I have if I look back at my time in whatever university or other parts of where I was. And I then tried again to leave. It was around 2022. I had a job at an Austrian startup.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of money, and they were scaling up very fast, and on paper looked really amazing.
In Austria?
In Austria, in Vienna. Vienna, where I was born, actually. So I'm fluent in German. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll try it out. I want to try something different. I thought Vienna, great world city, always on all the top rankings. Oh, fantastic style of living. So let's try it out. So I went. I was in Vienna for a month. And very much from the very beginning, the first few days already, I started not to like it. The city, although very beautiful, I'm born Viennese, so I can criticize a little bit. But it's a beautiful place, but it's very old. And what I mean by that, it's very static. And the kind of sort of energy of new things, if that's business meetings, that ideas, innovation, you'll be hard-pressed to find that in Vienna, at least. And it's old money. It's very hard to sort of find the kind of, let's say, more, maybe not chaotic, but unique opportunities that you could find in Warsaw, elsewhere, in Trójmiasto, Tri-Cities, in Wrocław. So I think that very quickly it sort of felt like this very expensive sort of bubble that I didn't like. And then the expats there also not really, wasn't connecting with many of them. I was connecting more with people from Central and Eastern Europe, from Poland, from Hungary, from the Czech Republic. And I just found every day that I was missing Poland more. I realized that had become my home and I missed it. But look at the technology even. You can pay with the quick scan on your card here without any PIN. That was very much here first. In the tiniest shop for the smallest amount. In Austria, in one of the main tourist areas in Vienna, you still have to pay with cash.
I know.
And there's no any bank machine anywhere. You have to go around the corner to look for something. I mean, this is a global city. Come on. And here it's in every little tiny town and village.
Shop, yeah.
So the infrastructure is different. So I left with the knowledge that I'm not missing anything there. Of course, great museums, lovely coffee and things like that. I'd love to go back and visit. But in terms of trying something different, innovation, a culture that also is, I won't go into politics too much, but also a little bit different, I just felt more that's Poland. and the wider region. I can include the Baltic states as well, Czechia. It's just more going on than in Vienna, I have to say. So to disappoint all the expat rankings of Vienna, I think we should look more at cities here in Poland for sure.
Yeah, well, Poland is developing very fast, I must say, and it's something which you already mentioned. I can also hear it from other of my clients and candidates when they are visiting our country, and they are really pretty impressed. And coming back to our topic about this success celebration, I think we are so much focused on striving and achieving perfection in every single piece in our life, that we are not able to celebrate this success, because all the time we are setting another goal, another level to achieve, and it's hard for us to actually I forgot the word in English.
Truly, I think appreciate it, to value
exactly,
it, right?
Thank you. To appreciate what we have, what we already achieved. Because we believe that it's so natural, we already did that we forgot about that. And we are keep going, and finally we are a bit lost where we want to go, which direction we want to go, and what exactly we want to achieve, yes? And this is something what I think is about us, about Polish people. But again, it's back to the way we've been raised, the education, what we are receiving from school, what kind of message.
Also history, right?
Also history, yeah, exactly. And you're also well educated about history.
Historian. I'm not quite a historian, but I do love history, and I have to say what I lack in Polish. I speak some Polish after all these years. Staram się najlepsze, but it's very much. I've read a lot about this country, and I grew up in America. You don't hear much about Poland, right? You hear the tragedy of World War II, communism, and that's basically it, unless you really dig into it. And I think that is also something that's holding Poland back, and this ties in with, but there's so many amazing stories in Polish history. Like if we look at, of course, that sad part of Poland, of course, but then it's all about the optics. And I think this is important for you and for Poles and people in the region. Because if you ask a Pole, like, yes, we've had this tragic history and through occupation in the Second World War. Then there was, of course, 123 years Poland didn't exist, and there was all this darkness and suppression, and that is sad. But then if you look at the optics from the other point of view, like an American, look, this is the story of the underdog, right? This is a nation that, no matter what, always tried again and again. And in America, and I think the world, we love an underdog story of those who eventually beat the Titan, beat the other rival. And I think that's the story of Poland. So I see it when I came here, that was the appeal. Like, wow, there's so much stuff and sadness, but no matter what, you just continue to try. You continue to fight and stand up and have earned the right to be very proud of that. But it seems like part of that came like, no, we are in this continued sort of sadness, this tragedy of this sort of badge of honor. And I sense that's not the lesson. And I think that holds you back at the same time. And of course, stand up and remember the sacrifices, but then move on with that spirit, because I think that's really powerful. But it's sort of gone in a different direction. We look at also like Polish cinema a little bit, that's another episode for another podcast. But I think there are beautiful stories well before the First World War as well. If you go back, one of my favorites, Kościuszko, now there's a movie, I know,
yes.
in Poland. But this is also quintessential sort of Pole for me, someone that's a beautiful story. If you don't know about him, wherever you are, check out Tadeusz Kościuszko, right? Someone who was a Polish patriot in the Enlightenment, an American patriot at the same time, modest, great ideas for the future, liberal. And I think that's the kind of Poland that I want to see. Like that's sort of the perception of like having the very best and standing up and including everyone, moving forward. And that kind of is that beautiful bridge America and Poland, which I think that's why that connection is there. And you go back and you have other stories. So it's like go and find what's underneath the iceberg, because there's so many incredible stories of progress, of tolerance, of amazing things that Poland has had over the centuries. And I think people need to rediscover that and use that for your advantage, because it's incredible stuff, powerful stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love the way you describe Poland and how much you are into Poland. That's really a little bit. No, that's really impressive. But coming back to your roots, are you anyhow connected with Poland? Do you have any?
That's the crazy thing. Not at all.
Not at all.
Because my mother's side from Germany, southern Bavaria. Then my father from Brazil, from Sao Paulo. They met in Austria. So I'm what's called a TCK, so a third culture kid. So you have these different cultures of your parents, but you grew up in another society, because I grew up in California. And it's sort of like you don't have ownership of any of them really, but it all kind of defines you. So it's hard when someone says, "Oh, where are you from?" It's like, well, what do you mean? Because I'm from here, but I grew up there. And it's, for many people, very difficult. And even for myself, and I'm with my German family, they don't see me totally as German. If I'm in Brazil, they're like, yeah, this is, Sascha, alemãozinho, like sort of cute word diminutive of German. And I'm not really fully Brazilian either. And in Austria, as I told you, I wasn't there very long, and I basically left, although I did join the military there for a while. But America, that's where I felt the most at home. I think a lot of values and how to be, and fostering talent and things like this. Those are really amazing years in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, where I grew up and started to go to university. Then I left and I went to Europe again. So, but these things are inside of you, and but I have to look at all the countries where I've been. Those are 7 countries now, but the one where I am still, and I still see a lot of potential, is Poland. I mean, with a caveat, it's not perfect here. I've got some issues here, of course.
Of course.
But I think with life, with opportunities, even despite the pandemic, despite this terrible war in Ukraine next door, it also proves that this place is very resilient, and there's still a lot of opportunity here. Not for those sunshine lovers, of course. People always scratch their heads. California, what are you doing here? It's always like, what? Are you crazy? And I was like, well, no, there's something about the seasons, but yeah, it does take some getting used to.
So what brought you to hell, yes?
Yeah, exactly. Hell and back, which is a beautiful place in Trójmiasto, right? Nearby. But how did I come here? If you want to know, I don't know.
Yes, I would love to know. Yes,
it's not really romantic, I'm afraid.
No,
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to say that. Maybe I had a crush on Poland a long time ago. First sort of assignment, I was 12 years old. We got assigned these country reports in school, and I got assigned Poland. And I was like, I didn't really know what it was. Like, kind of heard the name, did some research. They sent me all this stuff from the Polish consul in San Francisco, and I was like, oh, cool, and then. It's sort of like a little bit of a foretaste. Then fast forward to 2005, I think it was, 6 rather. I was in England and met Polish people there. And I always had good experience with them. Like, I worked with them. I was at a hotel working there, and a lot of Poles at that time in the UK. And they were first like a little bit just sort of not really the most open, but I was very persistent, like a Californian, like, oh, hello. And then finally we started talking. And then they started... realizing that I was okay, and they invited me out, and then we had some żubrówka. That was my first experience of some Polish drinking culture a little bit, but they were just generally always very hospitable and very nice to me, very kind. They were hardworking, and then I had friends at university who were Polish or Polish hybrids, and it just kind of all pointed to like, oh, this is a cool place. Like, why don't you try it out one day? And then, ironically, through this Polish friend at university, I said, hey, I'm trying this business. You wanna try it out for the summer? And I was like, sure, why not? And I immediately felt very comfortable here, and then returned to the UK. Then after a few months, I decided, like, you know what, I'm going to go full time with this business. So it was a sort of like maybe destiny to come here at some point. But it was business that brought me an interest also in the place. I had a business opportunity, young guy, entrepreneurial chance. Let's play around with it. Let's see what happens. And I just continued in different types of projects, another startup here, different project there, some teaching, then into technology a little bit more, and it just sort of evolved. And I always felt very comfortable here and never really wanted to go back to the UK or go anywhere else. So just sort of was always very intrigued by this place. Also living standards, very comparable to what you could find, especially now, having Warsaw change and grow. And at times I felt, as I said, a little bit alien. You know, we talk about success and how to fit in. That was challenging at times. But I think overall, if you try to really want to stay here, if you try to get to know the Poles, you try a bit of Polish, I can be Polish, I think, more and be accepted here more than if I return to any of my other countries. If I go to Germany tomorrow or go to Austria, they would always keep me at an arm's length. Even though I am half German, I speak fluent German, I go to Austria, I speak German. And that's unique about Poland. If you want to come here and really be included and know a bit of the very, very easy language that is Polish.
But you're learning Polish.
I'm still learning, but still, that's a lifelong goal, I think. You can be welcome here. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because they're great values and it's a great culture that goes back a long ways if you give it a chance. But at the same time, Poles should give themselves a chance as well to know that, you know, there's a lot to discover to themselves that they have a right to. That also is very connected to the region. I think Poland can do much, much more than it currently is in many ways.
I think we should point you as a Polish ambassador.
Unofficial sort of ambassador somewhere here and there already. I've always just spread a good message about this place because I'm here, I live it, and I still think it's a very beautiful story. Maybe I'm a bit of a romantic about this place, and I just see a lot of potential for it. And it's also because I'm half German, you know, that historical part is obviously also heavy, and I think I made a point to really also know about that, because I think that relationship between Germany and Poland is also very important. I think that still has some ways to go in terms of really being on the same level. But I know many Germans who've come here and who've also found that this place is much better than currently Germany is. That they want to be here rather than in Germany. That you can have a really successful life here. Things work here in some ways better and better than they do in Germany. Germany is not this standard that now must be carried. I think that Poland, if it still angles itself right, there's a lot of great stuff in terms of businesses, in terms of brands, in terms of a place of look at tech development, that can really surpass countries more in the West. And I think that's not just an exaggeration. I think it's definitely there. But it needs Polish people to believe more in themselves as well. And some are returning, some are doing that. There are brands that are staying here. There are people celebrating success, pointing that out like you. I think that's really important. All that stuff has to happen at once, for sure.
Yeah, I think we should change the topic of our podcast from celebrating success to celebrating Poland.
Yeah, sorry, everyone is that.
No, but that's cool, you know. That's really nice, the way you experience Poland and all of those topics you mentioned and have been covered by you. That's really, you know, touchy, and yeah. I highly appreciate that.
Great. I hope the listeners as well, you know. So.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Hope so they're still with us. Okay. So talking about the success celebration, yes, like coming back again to the topic. If we can maybe advise to people who are listening to us, how shall we celebrate the success? Maybe what kind of changes we can implement in our way of thinking, behaving. Maybe this is something what we can advise them. How do you think? What's your advice, like from non-Polish perspective?
I don't like the word advice because
Okay.
it just is sort of very much loaded with, oh, you have to do it this way. I think just my observations of maybe some tips if it can help
Yeah, tips.
potentially. I think it's about, as we kind of touched on already, taking a moment to pause and just sort of appreciating some of the things you've already done. You know, it doesn't have to be huge successes, but already I think by taking stock of, if that's people that you work with, maybe you can look back at certain things that you've done together well, or you know, your business is growing, or it doesn't take much. You just have to like look at your whole, let's say, concept of your work and say, I'm sure there are positive things that you can measure that are good, and that's because of a great team that you potentially have. If that's 2 people who work with you, if that's 100 or 1,000 people that work with you. And it's also the little things in life, I think, that are the most powerful. That can be day-to-day interactions. I mean, you don't have to go like this crazy over-American style, like, hey, how are you doing? And hug people at work. It's a little bit too much. It's not going to work. But just, you know, small little things. You know, if you're a manager, if you're just a solo entrepreneur, just taking small steps to acknowledge what people are doing, thanking, even if it's something like, hey, do you have this whatever file I need? And then you get it. We all get that email, and they want it. They want something right away. But there's never any, oh, thanks for passing it on. I really appreciate it. You know, like just that. You know, it's small things. So valuing the small things, because then that builds up into the bigger thing, right? And I think also, as you said, it's about looking at ourselves, having targets, of course, having a vision for what we want to be, but you can't get there without a good loyal team. And I think we can scale this out beyond Poland, right? I mean, loyalty to companies these days, people, you know, like they go to different jobs quickly, especially younger generation. I think because they want to be somehow valued. And I don't want to just say you need an award for everything and go crazy and just appreciate absolutely everything, but in a measured way, looking and thanking people, from the higher level to the middle level, the co-worker level. I think that's really important, I'd say. And I think that would be valued, because I remember the situations in Polish companies, if that's through coaching business I was involved in, other startups, television, where I even said like, oh, thank you for your work today, all you guys on the team and the cameras and everything. They're like, oh, okay. Like, they don't get that kind of feedback. It's like, why not? Like, oh, thanks for this. You did a great job. Oh, they're like sort of shocked.
They are not appreciated.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, you know, that will just make you sort of want to work. Sorry, but we kind of want to enjoy our work. You know, we don't all enjoy what we do. But I think small things like that are important. And you don't need to have a, you know, long kazania, long sort of homily about, wow, you've done all this amazing work. No, but make it sincere, make it short, but appreciate people here and there. And I think that goes a long way. It really does, no matter where you're from, I think.
Yes. Yeah, even the way we are receiving the feedback, yes, in the companies, the way how it's presented and how it's served by the managers, it's usually based on a negative feedback. And very, very often we are not receiving positive feedback because they are mainly focused of what has been done not right, not correct, yes. So we don't get used for being appreciated. That's the case, I think.
Yeah. And also I think if you do that on a consistent level, right, you start to kind of have this sort of negative sort of aura around you. Like, okay, well, everything I get is always negative. I always have to do more, but I'm not really appreciated ever. You start to turn a bit hostile, even if you don't express that, right? And I think that can be bad then later if you have brainstorming, if you have some ideas, like no one will want to share anything because they're not used to saying anything, right? And they're not used to, you know, having an idea appreciated. And I think you're totally right. And I have a few examples from Poland in this, is that, you know, I remember writing for a couple of different agencies, and I had different ideas that I pitched to them. And, 10, 15 of them. And this one guy, like, you know, he shot down every single one. I'm like, okay, but do you like any of the, why? Do you have any other? And that was it. Like, no, just bring me other ones. Like, well, wait a minute, there are some things that can work here, or at least, let me resell this to you. Like, no, I don't like any of them. So that's not feedback, right? This is important, and very important. Just by saying no to something, you can be, I'm a manager, I'm a boss, and this, I don't like any of it. Okay, well then give a hint of what you do like, or elements of something that you do like. Like, because people put their work into this, right? And if you just destroy it completely and like, oh no, all this is no good. Like, wow, that surely can't be true. I've had that in certain instances where a manager or boss will say like, I don't like this one or this thing or what you did here, this or this. Like, okay, so where's the constructive part of that criticism? And you can have the negative, sure.
Of course.
Have that. That's important. But there must be some element of where something looked okay, right? And I think that's also important, because then when you look up to someone, because you want to value the kind of feedback they give you. They have some insights. But if they're only just shooting everything down, so, what exactly has put you in that level? That's not really super meritocracy. And of course, sometimes that's a little justified. I'm making a generalization here, but provides some element of constructive feedback, even if a lot of the bulk is maybe not entirely right. That's how you say it as well, right? I think that's also really important, having an element of positive feedback somewhere.
Yeah, but that's also a part of the mindset we have. Yes, we usually focus on the negative aspects, and it's something what I was foreseeing very much often when it even comes to the interviewing candidates. When I was asking them questions, can you please share me your success stories? Yes, they were pretty confused because they didn't have any kind of an example, and most of examples they had, it was based on the negative, aspects and negative achievements, and they were confused, and they were like looking at me and really, well, it's
a trick question.
Trick question, yeah. And I was like repeating, it's a very simple question. Just focus. What kind of positive aspect can you bring to this conversation and share with me? And most of them think that it should be something extraordinary, some kind of like super story, but it shouldn't. It's just the way you appreciate what you're doing, the way you express what you're doing. So but it's really a missing part. So our mindset and our beliefs, and the way we should transform our beliefs and change it into the positive one. I think it's something we should work on, Polish people. Yeah.
I just have to say though, with that, just to make it clear, I don't want to go in the direction of where there are certain expectations, especially what we hear from currently in the United States or the UK, where certain people are just only worshipped and they expect to be on the highest level and sort of commended and promoted in 5 minutes. I mean, you still have to earn a certain level. I think this is also something like you do have to do some of the tougher jobs, things you don't like to do for a while, to earn to move up. And I think this is also something that I've found, and that's not just limited to Poland, like more younger people, sort of early 20s, and they get hired and they immediately want to be at the top table with something. And I think that's also not quite how it works. And I think everyone can sort of have a couple of ideas and things like this, but that also needs to be said. So I don't want to encourage to say that just everyone, as soon as you're working with a project or a company, that you're immediately you're at that same level as someone who's been there 5 years or 10 years or just even maybe 1 or 2 years above you. You need to also have some patience. And I think this is something that Poles do have. There's a lot of patience, and we can connect that as well to keeping your head down. And I think sometimes that is the right thing. But I'm just remembering one anecdote when I said about these students who were female and male, that it was always the female students who were the most, let's say, humble, and always would appreciate and want to learn more and understand. And okay, I'm making this mistake, but can you help me with this? And never really appreciating the great progress they had made already. And then the men, 20% of those students, also similar kind of status, making mistakes, not really interested in learning, like, oh, I'm already very good at this. Oh, I've already done this with you for like 2 months. Like, oh, I'm very good and better than I was before. Thank you, bye, right? Whereas the women would continuously respect my opinion as an instructor, as a teacher, and they would know that, okay, well, I should be doing this, and sometimes a bit too modestly, to be honest. Because they said, oh, I haven't done this for a long time. I can't do this. And these are like top level people. I was like, you can. You just need to appreciate what you got and then build on it, right? Make the mistake, but also learn from it, right? But then the men would simply think, oh, yeah, I've done this already. I'm very good at this. And it was always the men who made the most mistakes, who needed the most training, but would not acknowledge that. So that's also an interesting thing,
Yeah, but it's about our mindset again. I mean, women mindset. We are very demanding assessor for ourselves, and I can even see it from my perspective. How demanding am I for myself, and the way how I set up another goal, and yes, the way how I am learning how to celebrate the success and how to appreciate what I already done. It's not something what it's obvious for me. And this is something what I'm learning and developing right now. So
just need to celebrate yourself, right?
Yes.
So this is right now. This is good. This is important, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about being in a constant state of celebratory ecstasy, right? That's wrong. That's too much here. But I think hopefully we can make people understand that middle ground of taking small steps. I always love this 80-20 rule, right? These small changes that make the 80% impact. And this is just the same, right? You don't need to now become, and I'm not also saying like, because Americans are so extroverts, it's easier for you. It's not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily true at the same time. You don't need a world full of extroverts. That would look terrible. But I think everyone needs at times to be a bit ready to be a little bit of an extrovert. At the same time, extroverts need to also at times be a little bit of introverts to find that. And I think that middle ground is key. So, but as you said, for yourself as women, as a Polish woman, there's a lot of successes that you can celebrate and then really move up. Because I saw this also when I was then teaching children. I had like a language camp for kids as well. It was always the girls who were just exemplary, talented. Like, it was so impressive in so many ways. I was like, wow, I had new hope for humanity by seeing these young 12, 13-year-old girls that were already speaking like excellent English, had so many talents, and the boys, jumping around, hitting their heads with sticks, not able to put a sentence together at the same school level. So it's like, there are those successes, and the women needed to be, and the girls need to be also just as encouraged as the men, So that was also an interesting time of seeing that here in Poland as well. Yeah.
Great. Well, it's a huge pleasure to talk to you. So
likewise.
I hope so. We can make another podcast together.
For sure.
Yeah, we will find some topic.
Something about Poland, for sure. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Might be a good idea. Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to add at the end?
I just want to thank you for doing this. I think I know that this is the first English episode, so I think that's really incredible and well done that you're doing this in this format. And I think I just want to celebrate you for this
Let's
success.
celebrate.
Small steps, but it's also been a pleasure to share some of these small things, and hopefully it can help someone hear that. But as I think, concluding wise, it's small things, small changes that make big impact for those success stories, for celebrating success, that then whatever business you're in industry, I think can really help you out, especially if you're Polish.
Perfect.
Which is obviously an amazing place to be.
Thank you. And thank you for coming. So
Thank you.
Once more, today we have Sascha Fahrbach in our Ladies from HR. Sascha, who is a citizen of the world, falling in love in Poland, entrepreneur, journalist, and the person who knows how to celebrate the success.
Just trying. And a Polish fan as well.
And Polish fan as well, yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.